Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHere, where some people seem to think that everyone is an employee that's meant to serve them. And in today's episode, oh boy, guys, Karens are getting embarrassed left and right. And guys, one Karen starts a fight with OP, and a sweet grandma teaches her a lesson. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So a while back, I was on my way to go on a date with a girl that I considered a bit out of my league. While driving there, I was drinking a red Gatorade that dribbled down my chin and landed on the top of my white shirt. Now, I was already kind of late and wouldn't have enough time to drive back to my place, so I frantically searched my phone for a clothing place nearby, and the closest thing that came up was a Ross. So I pulled into the parking lot and hurried inside. When I got into the store, I went straight for the men's section to find a solid white shirt. Frantically looking through the first aisle, I couldn't find what I was looking for. Looking through the second, I walked by a middle-aged white guy that was giving me the evil eye, and he said, "Really?" and then walked away. Not knowing what was wrong with this guy, I just ignored him and continued on my search. After about 3 unsuccessful minutes, I decided to go ask someone who worked there if they could help. On my way to do this, I passed by the guy again, and out of nowhere, he just turned to face me and he screamed at the top of his lungs for everyone in the store to hear, "Are you going to effing follow me around everywhere? You effing store security piece of crap? Leave me alone." Now, I'm the type of person that really doesn't like a lot of attention, and now the entire store's occupants, maybe 30 people, had stopped what they were doing and they were staring at me like I was the devil. I just quietly said, "Dude, I don't work here." And then he replied in an even louder tone, for which I can only assume was an effort to embarrass me further. "You don't work here? You're trying to tell me that you're not loss prevention, you effing scumbag? Leave shoppers alone. Not all of us are effing thieves." The guy then takes a step forward, now only a few inches from my face, breathing a nasty stench of liquor into my nostrils, and he screams, "I should kick your ass right here. That'll teach you to stalk shoppers," while staring me right in the eyes. Now, I'm not huge by any means, but I'm of adequate size. I knew I could take this guy if I needed to, and at this point, I could feel the anger boiling from deep within and even began to slightly tremble with adrenaline. I then say to him, "I don't work here, and you are beginning to piss me off." I said that with clenched jaws, in a calm yet menacing tone, while giving him a look that let him know that A, I truly did not work there, and B, that he had just effed up. This time, he looked at me with a bit of fear and slight disbelief in his eyes, but he made the poor decision to continue along with his tirade because he's already gone this far, so why not? The guy starts to scream at me again, but he ends up making the significantly wiser decision to turn around and walk away while he did it. But not before calling me a loser and telling me to get a damn life as he went to meet who I assume is his wife. So there I stood, in complete disbelief at what had just transpired, with multiple strangers still staring at me. I decided that this was all a bit too surreal and that I should probably leave before things escalate any further. With my stained white undershirt, I walked out to my Jeep, and I sat there for a few minutes calming myself down from something that nearly went very poorly. I pulled out, and as soon as I drove by the front of the store, guess who came strolling out with his wife? I rolled down my window, and then threw up my middle finger and yelled, "Look, you effing moron, I don't effing work here, I was shopping just like you." And for anyone who may be curious, my date graciously forgave my sloven looks, and we're still together today. You know what, guys, a part of me was kind of disappointed that the show ended a bit early because we're all so used to psychos attacking customers and getting hauled off to jail, right? But hey, I guess it's good that the guy just left OP alone. And seriously, anyone who gets pissed off at loss prevention following them probably has had way too many run-ins with them. This happened 2 years ago. I used to work in a really big whiskey bar in my town that also catered for dinner and coffee/cake sort of things. I had worked there for a couple of years, so I guess I was recognizable to a few people, and maybe some hadn't realized I'd moved on. I was also really good friends with all the staff in there, so I used to come in for a pint and chat occasionally. The uniform in the whiskey bar is a black shirt and black bottoms, and being a bar person, I happen to wear an awful lot of black on a daily basis, even in my new job, which is casual dress. So this one evening, I call in for a drink. and I'm sitting at the bar waiting for the bartender to finish serving this woman next to me. After 10 seconds, I realize that she's absolutely going out of her way to make life a living hell for her server. She's trying to pay for a bunch of stuff separately, but she wants specific change for each thing, for reasons unknown. And while the guy serving her is doing everything to accommodate her, she creates a new problem with every interaction. She complains there's too much coins, not enough coins, the cream on the coffee isn't nice enough, etc. And then she gets quite rude and aggressive, sending her server running back and forth. It's a bit bizarre. The bartender is a chill guy, and he does his best to meet her requirements and offers her 2 Irish coffees that she just ordered on the house by the way of apology. The woman mutters something under her breath along the lines of, "You damn right," while expressing her impatience by huffing and tapping her phone loudly on the counter. The bartender serves the drinks and smiles, apologizing again. I'm sitting at the end of the bar, near where the sugars, spoons, and milk for the coffee is, in my black ensemble. The woman then turns to me and she just says, "Spoon, now," without even looking at me. I say to her, excuse me? I was a bit taken aback. The woman then says, "Give me a damn spoon," right into my face. I then look her dead in the eye and I responded, "I don't work here." I then order my beer and she went a marvelous shade of red and she scuttled off back into whatever pit she had come from. She never got her damn spoon. Guys, customers like that are the absolute worst. And I'm pretty sure she's like that because she gets free things for acting like an a-hole. And guys, the spoon now comment was wild though. Like imagine being that entitled where you order people around like that. And honestly, I'm surprised she didn't snap her fingers in Opie's face while saying that. And this person comments, "I'm a bartender and I think I would have launched a spoon at her face with extreme velocity." Yep, that's one way to teach rude people. And guys, the Karen in this next one learns exactly why she should be a nicer person. So while I was browsing through these stories, I took a trip down memory lane. When my brother worked at a southern grocery store chain with green shirts where shopping is a pleasure. My brother was a cashier, and one of my brother's regulars was this elderly lady from Puerto Rico. She had come by every Saturday to get groceries, and the woman didn't speak a word of English, but she was so endearing that my brother and his coworkers lovingly called her Abuelita. Even the managers called her that. It turns out that her grandson was a fellow cashier, and for big holidays like Christmas, she would send him in with enough homemade goodies like tamales and enchiladas for everyone. Just a real sweet lady. So one Saturday evening, I got off work early and decided to get some last-minute things for a barbecue. It was maybe an hour before closing, so the store's practically dead. I made the critical mistake of changing into a green shirt, but it was a much darker shade of green than the one the employees wear. I was getting flour when Abuelita, who I'd met before on previous excursions, rolls up on her electric shopping cart and politely asked me in Spanish to reach something from the top shelf. I helped her and then she went on her way after thanking me. 5 minutes later, I was in front of the meat counter, debating on which brisket to get, when I hear the clearing of the throat, the warning call of the wild Karen. So I stepped aside, thinking I was in her way, but the woman clears her throat again. That's when I turn and I see someone who resembled a 250-pound version of Kate Gosselin, complete with the haircut, and that was my mistake. The woman screams at me and says, "Go to the back and get 5 New York strip steaks." Me, not quite registering what's going on, said, pardon? The woman screams at me and says, "Are you deaf? I said, get me 5 New York strip steaks from the back." That's when I tell her, I'm sorry, but I don't work here. I can get someone to help you though. And that's when Karen says, "Don't be stupid. You helped that old bitch in the scooter and you're wearing the shirt. Stop being lazy." Now, I was done at this point, and I said, "Listen, lady, even if I did work here, what makes you think that I would help you?" And that's when Karen raised her fist, and then it happened. Something hit the side of her head with a loud smack before landing by my feet. We then look down, and we see a flip-flop. And all of a sudden, I hear raised voices in Spanish and then turn to look. Abuelita was maybe 10 feet away, missing one flip-flop, and she was holding her other flip-flop in her hand, winding up like she was a freaking MLB pitcher. She was glaring at Mega Karen, with her black eyes and her mouth set in a firm line. Her grandson was running up to her, yelling at her in Spanish to put down la chancla. Cue Abuelita starting to cry and telling her grandson that she was only protecting the nice lady who had helped her, and that Mega Karen was going to hit me. Now, by this point, the manager's coming over, and Mega Karen must have realized she'd done goofed up. She then pulled the quickest disappearing act that I've ever seen. I returned Abuelita's flip-flop to her, and I thanked her. I also made sure the manager knew that Abuelita was trying to defend me. And that's the story of how a Mega Karen learned the terrifying power of Abuelita and La Chancla. I never did see Karen again. Holy guys, and way to go Abuelita. And really, I just love how she was winding up to throw the other sandal at Karen. And this is how it should be, guys. Anytime a Karen acts up and goes harassing employees and customers for no good reason, a sandal should just fly out of nowhere and smack them in the side of the head. And I only wish that there was a video of that interaction. Like, what was Karen's face like when she realized it was a sandal that hit her? I've read and heard a lot of these stories, and I never thought I'd be a part of one. I recently had to buy a new computer chair, so I went to a store to purchase one. While browsing the selections, a female employee approaches me and she offers me help. I had already decided on a chair, and I told her as much, when this D-bag appears. Now, to give you the full scope of the situation, I'm in silk-looking long pants and a Pennywise t-shirt. The employee's in a uniform. A t-shirt that's bright red with the company logo on it and khaki pants. D-bag then says, "You there. I need help picking a gaming computer for my son." The employee kindly responds, "Of course, sir. Let me get this chair wrung out, and I'll help you pick one." At this point, he gives us a weird look and says, "I wasn't talking to you. I was speaking to him." Now, I was a little confused by this, and I simply said, I don't work here." And him, apparently only just now noticing my outfit, looked at me and said, "Yeah, but you probably know more about tech than this girl does, right?" He said that while giving me a smirk. After I managed to pay an expedition to recover my jaw from the center of the earth, I simply said, "Look, I do know a bit about tech, but it's extremely rude to assume that she doesn't know because she's a girl. She's the one working here, not me." At this point, he went beet red and he begins yelling at me, calling me every name under the sun, even telling me, "I'll F you up if you talk to me like that again. I'm not scared to go to jail." Now, I'm still very calm because I've worked in retail 15 years, so it's not the first rant I've heard. Working at a gas station, you'll hear some gems. And as I'm about to respond, I get a gentle tap on my shoulder. It's the employee. She tells me, "Hey, he's not worth it. Let's get your chair out." I agree, and we finish our transaction. And as I'm being wrung out, I hear some commotion behind me, and I turn to see the guy being escorted out by the police. Apparently, while he was losing it on me, the employee was not idle. She had radioed her manager to let him know what was happening. She got me to walk away to the counter with her so the manager could talk to this guy and eject him from the store, to which he refused to leave without this stuff for his son, so the police were called. The guy was banned. It was just so stupid that this entire thing happened because he had to say something like that and couldn't just show a little respect to others. Good on OP for standing up for that employee. Like, some people just need to accept the fact that anyone can in fact be knowledgeable in anything. And really, sir, was it really worth escalating it to that point of getting arrested? I really hope he learned his lesson because this was a stupid thing to get arrested over. So basically, I'm a customs officer working in an airport in Ireland, and I control passengers in the luggage hall coming into the country. We get a lot of American passengers coming in, and they ask a lot of questions, which is normal, and we happily answer them as long as they aren't wasting our time and asking a million different questions. Today was different. Today, I met my first American Karen. It's 6 a.m. I'm tired. I've yet to have my coffee, but I stay professional and courteous as I normally am. And that's when I spot her. This woman had her chin held high, sunglasses on, hair in a bun, and she approaches me at a brisk pace. She then says, "Excuse me, sir, how much alcohol am I allowed to bring to the US from Ireland?" Now, this might seem like a normal question, and to an extent, it is. However, I do not work for US Customs, nor do I work in the US, so I have no idea. I try to explain to Karen, "Sorry, madam, I'm not sure. You're gonna have to ask someone else." And oh boy, she did not like that at all. The woman says to me, "Excuse me? This is your job. You're supposed to know this stuff." I again try to explain that I do not work for US Customs and I do not know that information. This went back and forth for several minutes, and eventually I told Karen that I would not explain it to her again, and that she would have to leave the luggage hall. And that's when she says, "How dare you? You are absolutely useless at your job. I want to speak with your manager." And at this stage, I have lost all patience. I do, however, have a plethora of powers that I can use to finish this wonderful conversation. So I look her dead in the eye and I say, "Madam, I've entertained you for long enough. If you cannot understand me, you will not understand anyone here. I'm a customs officer. I'm not customer service. What you're doing is obstructing a customs officer from doing their duties, which is an offense, and can lead to your arrest. There's the exit. Go. Have a good day." Karen, now red-faced and quite visibly frustrated and probably offended, huffs and puffs, but she finally F's off. I went out for a much-needed coffee break. Oh man, guys, I'd say OP handled that pretty well, considering it was that early and before his morning coffee. And if I were in OP's shoes, guys, I would have trolled her. I would have been like, "Ma'am, you don't know? If you're traveling to the US, you specifically, since you're so special, are allowed to bring as much alcohol as you'd like. There's no limit for you. Trust me." I'm just kidding. She'd probably throw a huge fit and make someone else's day miserable. And guys, this person shares their encounter with a Karen, and it goes like this. So I actually witnessed this interaction yesterday when I was shopping at my local electronics store. The one with the blue polo and the tan khaki pants. Over in the next aisle, there was another customer. I'll call her customer number 1. She was wearing a white button-up shirt and dark khaki pants. Based on her dress and general no-nonsense demeanor, I can partly understand why customer 2 assumed automatically that customer number 1 was a manager. The exchange proceeds as follows. Customer number 2 makes a beeline for customer 1 and says, "Thank God. I've been looking for a manager for 15 minutes. I've been having a problem with my computer and I need..." And that's when customer number 1 interrupts her and says, "I'm sorry, I don't work here. There should be a manager up front." Customer number 2 gets flustered and a bit annoyed, and she says, "I've been waiting to find you for 20 minutes. You're not gonna brush me off that easy. Now here's what I need." And this escalates through several rounds of conversation, with customer number 2 escalating her offense, disbelief, and general attitude of entitlement, while customer number 1 escalates in parallel. And finally using her best crowd control voice as she pulls out her badge and identifies herself as an off-duty police officer, she says, "My name is Lieutenant so-and-so, and I'm off-duty with the city police. You need to back off right now or I'll place you under arrest." Customer number 2, on autopilot and taking a while to process, says, "I've never been treated so poorly in my life. I'm going to report this entire store to your headquarters." That's when customer number 2's face turns various shades of red and goes white, as she realizes what the off-duty officer says. She then faints dead on. Paramedics had to be called, and I got to be an official witness for the police report. Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting Karen to faint, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure she couldn't handle being so wrong that her mind just shut down, guys. So here's a quick intro. This was a funny story that happened to me a few years ago. My parents are one of the founders of a resort and is chairman of the board of directors. I've sat in a few of the meetings, so everyone knows that I'm the boss's son. I was on vacation with my fiance Julia and my sister Emma. So I, Julia, and Emma were staying at Dad's resort for a week or two because we were visiting my mother. As we entered the resort, I noticed the parking lot was packed, and I saw a few cars roaming around looking for parking spots. Being the owner's son, most staff members did know us, and as I walked to the reception, one of the staff working there saw me, and she walks over to greet me. She tells me that my mom is currently in a meeting, and would you like me to bring your luggage to your room? I say to her, thanks. Sometime later, after a bit of swimming, we went to the restaurant to eat lunch. I had put on a blue shirt, and I was still in my gray swim trunks. The clothing looked similar to the uniform that the waiters are wearing. They were almost identical, except the only difference was it didn't have the word staff on it. This'll come in handy later. So while we're chatting in the restaurant, I heard some lady say, "Hey you," rather rudely from somewhere behind me. At first, I thought it was someone trying to get the attention of a waiter, so I continued chatting with Julia and Emma. As I was chugging down some ginger ale, someone roughly grabbed my shoulder from behind, and I almost choked on my soda, spitting it all over. The woman then screams at me and says, "Hey, I've been trying to get your attention. Me, being someone who doesn't get mad that easy, just looked up and asked her politely, do you need something, ma'am? The woman says to me, why are you eating with the guests and not doing your job? Now I caught on pretty quickly and I knew what she thought. She thought I was staff from what I was wearing, but I was getting a little annoyed from how much she was yelling at me while she was a foot away from me. I say to her, ma'am, I don't work. She then stops me and says, shut up. I'm the VIP here. Do you know how much I'm spending to be here? And we're not even getting service. The woman just continued yelling, and I continued to talk calmly to Miss Loudmouth while raising my voice a little. I say to her, excuse me, I do not work here. And that's when Karen slaps me and she says, don't you use that tone with me. The manager Jack was walking over when he heard Karen yelling, but then he broke into a run and he hurries over when he saw Karen slap me. He then screams, ma'am, stop. He then looks at me and says, Noah, are you alright? Jack was someone who's worked at the resort for a few years, so he was pretty casual with me. Karen then screams, are you the manager? I want this employee fired. He is so unprofessional. I don't know why you hired someone who won't do their job. Karen then pointed at me and she spoke as if she was the owner, telling the manager that she's VIP. The manager tells her, ma'am, he doesn't work here. Meanwhile, Karen keeps saying, you're trying to cover him. I want you fired as well. I then saw my mother running over with 2 security guards, and when she saw my red face and Karen yelling at me, I thought she was going to explode as she rushes over to me. My mother then screams, what on earth happened? Have her arrested. Karen says, what do you mean arrest me? Who are you to do that? My mom says, I'm the owner of this resort. And my goodness, the face that Karen made when she heard those lines, I'll never forget. She went white as snow while her eyes and mouth were wide open. Karen was then taken away. Guys, I will never understand how some people just start hitting others when they don't get what they want. Like, it's crazy the amount of stories I read where Karens immediately just smack someone for disobeying them. And here's something, like if OP was an employee, smacking them's not gonna make them help you any faster, Karen. That's just a quick way to go to jail. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitledpeople episode, where a psycho Karen steals from a 6-year-old's birthday party because the girl happens to be disabled. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.